We are not wasting a second tonight. We are going to take a look at four delicious chicken dinners. And we're going to do it on a budget. We're going to use what we have to make what we want. So, buckle your seatbelt and let's get started. There is nothing better than an amazing chicken dinner to sit down to, and especially when you're able to prepare it and do it in such a way that you're using everything that's in your pantry, those things that you already have. So, we're starting out our brandied apple chicken with some house seasoning, which is black pepper, garlic powder, onion powder. These chicken thighs are going to need some paprika, and we're going to put paprika on both sides as well as we did the house seasoning. And the reason for that is because we want our chicken thighs to taste absolutely delicious either way we bite into them, and we want them to have a beautiful color. You'll notice that I'm using spoons and I'm trying to flip those chicken thighs over because of the fact that I just didn't want to get my hands full of all the chickeny stuff, just in case I needed to touch something else. So that's why I'm being a little bit cautious. I also have down on my cutting board a plastic, well, I guess you call it plastic, sheet that I can cover the board with, and it just keeps the chicken off that board. The nice thing about this plastic is that it's washable. I can either wash it by hand or I can put it into the dishwasher and have it really sanitized. Add a couple of tablespoons of your oil of choice. I'm using olive oil. Place the chicken thighs into the oil, skin side down. You should hear a nice sizzle and see lots of bubbling around it. If you don't, then after that first chicken thigh, give it a few minutes so that your oil can get nice and hot. But once you have at least 4 into your skillet, wait on the other 2 and let these cook. Otherwise, when you start to turn it over, it's going to have a moment and it's going to stick to that skillet. And that's not what we want. We want a very beautiful, brown, crispy skin on top. At this point, your chicken thighs are not going to cook completely, but they're going to probably be about 3/4 of the way. Now, we're going to take them out and we're going to allow them to just sit for a little while until we get everything else prepped and into the skillet. Back in and let it simmer for about 10 to 15 minutes in that sauce and finish up its cooking process. Home cooks, I hope you know how special it is having you with me right here in the kitchen of Ebony Ivy. Few extra apples in after the main portion of the apples have gone into the pan. And that's so that we have a little variety and texture in this dish. I'm also sprinkling in some flour because we're going to need just a little thickening, and I'm going to let that flour cook with the apples and with the other veggies and start to prepare the sauce. Once you return that chicken to the pan, don't forget to add any little juices that may have accumulated on the plate because we don't want to lose that flavor. For you. Let this simmer in the cast iron for at least 10 to 15 minutes because we want to make sure, number one, that the chicken is well done. Now, also, you're going to want to make sure that you have prepared some rice on the side so that you'll have something to be able to put this deliciousness over and certainly add a little bit of the juices onto the rice. And we've taken care of all of that. So it's time to eat. Now let's move on to a second favorite, which is our chicken and rice casserole. Yum, yum. Now you're going to add a layer of olive oil or any oil of choice into a very hot skillet. Then we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of butter. And the reason for doing this is so that the butter will not burn and will just melt gently into the olive oil. We're going to add our floured chicken thighs into this butter and oil mixture. And we're going to let them get nice and toasty. Now, we are not trying to make them look like fried chicken. They're just going to get brown. And we're doing this skin side down. And we'll finish up the cooking once it's in the oven. Even though we season the flour, we're still going to go back and add some more house seasoning. And we're going to even make sure that we add a little touch of paprika because that's going to help to give it good color. While the chicken is frying, we're going to cut up an onion and just into little halves. We're not trying to do a small dice because we really do want to see what's in this casserole. Now, once we have flipped these chicken thighs, we're going to re-season again on the other side because that side had not been seasoned for a second time. So we're going to do that once they're flipped. And you'll see all those good juices down there in the bottom of the pan. I can tell you all of that is going to go into our rice. And I'm cooking the chicken pretty much on just a low, now I'll say medium low level because I wanted to get halfway done at least. And I wanted to release a lot of its juices. Now, over in this other pan, I'm going to sit the chicken once I see that it's browned on pretty much on both sides. Then I'll start to take it out of the pan. So I'm just flipping it over for a few minutes to see how it's doing. And I can also tell by the texture of it as to whether how close it is to being totally done. This one's pretty done. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it out. And I'm going to do that with all of them. Now, there's still quite a bit of goodness that's on the bottom of this pan. So we're going to be releasing that with some chicken broth. So we've got our chicken. You'll see I'm kind of taking the chicken and rubbing the bottom of the pan, releasing some of the little goodies that stuck to the bottom. I'm just taking those and getting them out. Now, look in that skillet. All of that looks good. Now, we're going to be using that. So I'm going to add the onion to this. And I'm going to let all of this onion, that one onion, that I'm going to add into this. Remember, we had olive oil and 2 tablespoons of, excuse me, of butter. So in this, here's the few little mushrooms that I had. I just had a little bit left. And these are actually mushrooms that I froze. So I'm taking them and putting them in. They're not frozen at this point. I did let them thaw because I want them to go ahead and do a little cooking. I didn't want a lot of mushrooms. Now, if you wanted to chop yours up smaller because there may be someone in your household who doesn't like them when they're large, or if they can see them, then certainly go ahead and chop, 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 because the mushrooms really do add a great texture to your rice mixture. So we're letting this cook, and I'm turning the fire up just a little bit. So I'm going to let that cook until the onion is nice and clear. I'm going to add a little extra pepper. And I haven't quite decided yet whether I'll add any red pepper flakes or not. But I have not at this point put in any additional salt other than the little bit of salt that was in the house seasoning. And as you know, most of my house seasoning is everything but salt. So that helps me to keep control as to how much salt that I'm using. Now, let me tell you, there's always one thing that you have to watch for. Sometimes your chicken broth is salty. So you do need to make sure that you check that so that you'll know whether or not you need to add or take away a certain amount of salt. I did have a little bit of garlic, excuse me, that I had stored in the refrigerator. So I'm putting in 4 garlic cloves that had been soaking in some olive oil. And, you know, I keep a little container of that in the refrigerator all the time. And it makes up a delicious garlic oil. So I'm just taking those, they're nice and soft, and I'm kind of breaking them up just with the back of the spoon. And this is working out great. So it's going to add nice garlicky flavor to our onions and mushrooms and all those good things. Now I'm going to let this sizzle for a moment. And then we're going to add in about 1.5 cups to almost 1 3/4 cups. We're going to mix this rice mixture, and we're going to let it get nice and toasty. And then we're going to add in the liquid. And once we do that, this chicken and rice is going into the casserole dish, and we're going to bake it. So let's get ready for that. Now, once everything seems pretty toasty in the skillet, and it has pretty much taken up all of the goodness that was in that skillet, then we're going to be ready to transfer all of this to our casserole dish. And you can see that the rice has started to brown, the onions are brown, and the mushroom is certainly soaking up, as well as the rice, everything that was in the pan. Now I'm bringing over my Mikasa rectangular baking dish, and it holds about 3 quarts of substance. So we're going to put the rice mixture on the bottom, and we're going to scrape to make sure that we get everything into that dish. Now notice, I have not sprayed this dish, and the good thing about it is that it's very friendly to baking, in that anything that you put into it, it will release it. And that's why I like it, because I don't have to worry about a lot of material sticking to the side. It will stick a little bit, but you know, once you put some nice warm soapy water on it, it washes right off. So that's a good thing. Now I'm going to take our chicken, and you know, I use thighs. You could use breast, you can use legs, you can use whatever part. If you have a whole chicken, you could even cut that chicken up into pieces and use those chicken parts in your rice dish. I have certainly done that. This is what I had because that's what was available. And so I was amazed that I was able to get, and you'll see when this is all over with, it makes 2 dinners for just the big guy and I. But if we had the kids here, I could get everybody fed, and they would definitely be full with the dish that I have here. Now I have about 3 cups, almost 4 cups of chicken broth. And my chicken broth is just a little salty, a little saltier than I like. Now I have 2 choices. I haven't added much salt into this mixture, so I'm going to keep it pretty much the way it is, because I know the chicken's going to release a little more liquid. So that's 1 cup. There's 2 cups. And we're going to add just a little more. There's 3 cups. And I'm thinking I may want to add just a little bit more because I don't want the rice to be totally dry. And I definitely want it done. I don't want it crispy rice. You know, I want good, well cooked rice. So I've put in about 4 cups of liquid. And you'll see it's very, very soupy. But at this point, I'm just going to nestle the chicken pieces down into the rice so that the chicken will finish cooking and as well as the rice is going to cook. And I'm going to cover this with foil. It's going to stay under wrap for an hour. And at the end of that hour, I'll take it out, take a look at it, and see whether or not the rice is ready. The chicken I'm not worried about. The rice is what I'm concerned about. I want it to be the texture that I want. I haven't decided. I think I'm going to start it at 400 and then I may cut it down to 350 later on. And we can always make those adjustments as we go, or as we get closer to the time. So I'm putting in our 400 and getting it going. I'm going to give it just enough time to come up to temperature and it's ready. Want to take a spoon or a fork and just taste it to make sure that it's as done as you like it. I like to have my rice mixture to be just a little bit moist, almost like I had poured gravy over it. But I want the rice to be well cooked, but then I like the little extra liquid. So I'm going to place this back in the oven and voila, there he is. Woo! This is going to be good. Put our food in, scooping out the rice and the chicken together, and any that's left is going to go on the side. So there's our rice, and it is smelling so good. And I need one for me, and I need one for the big guy. So let me get a cloth and kind of clean that plate off. Yummy. So let me take you over to the table where I have both of the plates sitting there ready for everybody to pick up. I have mine and the big guys. Our salads are there. Everything's nice and colorful. And I don't know about you, but I'm ready to eat. So I'm going to take a good bite. Oh my goodness. I hope you're ready for a third chicken dinner that is going to be absolutely delicious. This is the ultimate chicken cassoulet. And we're going to prepare a whole chicken, get it cut up into pieces. Some we're going to use, and some we're going to put away. Don't hate. I'm doing it my way. And to be honest with you, it seems like every time I cut a whole chicken, it turns out just a tiny bit different. But sometimes I want to leave a little more meat on the bone so that when I put it into the stock pot to make stock, then I have a little more meat to be able to use, say for instance, in a soup or in a stew. So I'm in the process of just cleaning this chicken up and taking off some of the pieces because I already know some is going to go into a Ziploc bag and some is going to stay and be a part of the casserole. Actually ended up with 10 pieces of chicken, so I'm adding an envelope of Lipton onion soup mix, and I'm going to take clean hands and I am working that Lipton onion soup into the chicken. I'm adding a packet one whole packet of Lipton onion soup mix. And not only is it going to flavor the chicken very well, but once the chicken gets into the cassoulet, it's going to continue to actually add more flavor to the cassoulet, even though we're going to do a lot of flavoring along the way. But this Lipton soup mix really is a game changer. I prepped the chicken in advance and got it into the Lipton's onion soup mix. And then I also prepped all of the ingredients so that all I have to do is to put them into the pot, whichever pot I decide to use. I could put it into a slow cooker, or I could certainly put it into a Dutch oven. Either way it goes, I've got everything in Ziploc bags, and I froze the main mixture, and the chicken is going to be in the refrigerator ready to go on the day that we have the guest. There we go. Now we're doing a little bit of pre-cooking of the chicken, and the reason for that is because we want to be able to get a little bit of brown on the chicken, just a little golden, and then we'll add it to the casserole. So we're going to do a little pre-cooking here and let it finish up in the oven. And we seasoned our chicken. You saw that. It's been in the refrigerator, and I'm just going to get a little sizzle. I'll probably turn it down just a little bit so it doesn't brown too fast. Putting the skin side down. And I won't move it until it's ready. Let's turn that over. Now I've got a combination of chicken pieces, and I'm not sure I'm going to use all of this chicken. But I don't want anyone to go home hungry. So you'll notice that this is sticking just a little bit. It's not ready to release. But once it releases, then we'll flip it over. Chicken pieces where I want them. I'm adding just a little bit of pepper. They should have enough salt, garlic, all those good things, because we added the packet of seasoning to it to make. I want to get everything down in there. I don't want to leave anything in this bag. Now I let it thaw in the refrigerator and then took it out, hoping that it would be totally unthawed, but guess what? It's not. And that's okay. But it will. Oh, it smells wonderful. Now, I still have a few little frozen parts that are down in there. So I'm just going to take my meat fork, stick it down in there. You can see that they're breaking apart very easily, just to make sure that I have everything pretty broken. There we go, and well incorporated. So everything's had a chance to get into the flavor. And I'm going to add some fresh tomatoes to this mix that I didn't want in the freezer. So I'm going to take those and I'm going to give those a stir. I'm going to add just a little bit of salt because, you know, fresh tomatoes don't come salted. There we go. And now, give it all a little zhuzh. This is going to be delicious. Okay, I'm going to add the chicken back in with the skin side up. There we go. Move things around so they'll go where you want them to go. That's what we can do. We're in control of this pot. Okay, so there's our pieces of chicken on top. And I'm going to take all the juices that came off the chicken and anything else is all going back in. So this is ready for the oven. So I'm going to put a top on it and let it cook at least 30 minutes with the top. And I'll tell you, because you know as ovens vary. I've got my top. That's my Lodge brazier. The Lodge is coming in. All right, so there we go. He's in the oven. He's ready to... Oh my goodness. I forgot to show you what the pot looked like at 40 minutes. I left it in for an hour and 15 minutes because I wanted just a little more brown. This cassoulet will be the star of your dinner party. It's delicious. The chicken melts in your mouth, and the smell, when you walk in the door, is absolute heaven. Now let's move on to a savory chicken noodle soup. As you can see, it's about a 3.5 quart crock pot, which is just perfect for tonight's meal. I want them as small as possible. And then we'll finish giving them a little rough chop. And we'll get everybody into this soup pot. I have 1 chicken breast. And I had a package of chicken breast. And this was the one I didn't use. So I'm just going to take this, not even going to touch it. I'm going to put it right here into our crock pot. Now it's time to add some spice. And I'm going to begin with our most basic spice, which is going to be salt and pepper. And I'm going to be careful with the salt because we just don't like a lot of salt. So I'm going to put in for now just 1 teaspoon of salt. Now I will probably need to add more, but you can always add more, but you can never take away. So start a little light and then go back and you can add more. So that's 1 teaspoon, and I'm using pink Himalayan. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of black pepper. And that's a coarse grind black pepper. I'm also going to add in some garlic. And this is granulated garlic. I'm going to add in at least a teaspoon of granulated garlic. I'm going to say a teaspoon and a half because we like garlic. And that's in. And you notice I have a spoon just for the garlic because we use it that much. I'm going to add a pinch of red pepper flakes, because those red peppers are just going to add a little special hit in the back, just a pinch. They're not there to add heat. It's there to add flavor, 1 pinch. But for a container this large, you'll never know they're in there. Okay, I'm also going to add in some parsley. This is dehydrated parsley that I actually dehydrated myself. What are some of the things that you do to make your chicken broth? And how often do you make your chicken broth right there in your slow cooker? That's something that we should do all the time. I'm going to remove the chicken from this crock pot. And the reason for that, you'll be able to see that it has developed a very delicious broth down in this crock. And certainly if I were just going to keep just broth, then I would put it through a strainer so that I could take out any particulate matter that might be floating around in it. But since we're preparing a soup, we want to make sure that it's going to be absolutely delicious. Now, as you can see, I have added a little bit more water to it. And the reason for that is because I know I'm going to place the pasta into this pot. And it will not be cooked. I'm going to take it straight out of the container and put it into the pot. So because of that, the pasta is going to soak up quite a bit of that liquid. And we're going to cut this chicken up so that it's in little nice bite-sized pieces. And I'll add it back into the crock pot. What are some of the things that you do to make your chicken broth? And how often do you make your chicken broth right there in your slow cooker? What a fun time we have had today in the kitchen with not one chicken dinner, but we've actually prepared four. And we've done it as economically as we could possibly do. And we've used the things that we had right here in our kitchen. Now, let me be clear. These are four dishes that I put on a repeat every month because my family loves them and because at this point I can do them and prepare them with my eyes closed and I know exactly what I need to add. Now, let me suggest to you try it, tweak your own spices along the way so that you will come to know exactly how you want it to taste and what your family wants. And if you have any additional chickeny dishes that you think my family might also like, please let me know down in the comment box. But I hope you've had a great time today. And I hope you'll come back to the kitchen of Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme